Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on the 9th Thirumurai, 9th Thirupathikam and the very first verse. We have already completed 8 Thirupathikams with Lord Shiva's grace. Now we are continuing our journey on to the 9th Thirupathikam. This Padikam belongs to the place called as Kalandhai Adhitheycharam. It's a very small place, but yet it's a very beautiful temple, beautiful shrine. Please don't miss visiting this place. It is called as Kalapal. If you are doing a Google search as in maps, Google Maps, look up for Kalapal, you will be able to figure out the place and the route to it. Beautiful place, not to be missed place as well. We are going to start with our first verse now. The first verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. கலைகடம் பொருளும் அறிவுமாய் என்னை கற்பினில் பெற்றெடுத்தெனக்கே மூலை கடந்தருளும் தாயினும் நல்ல முக்கணானூரை விடம் போலும் மலை கோடைந்தனைய நடுநிலை மாட மருங்கெலாம் முற மறையவர் முறையோத்து அலை கடல் முழங்கும் அந்தண்ணீர் கலந்தை அணிதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse talks about a very important lesson for us. We all know mother instinct is the most powerful one in the world because we could observe that in the nature as of today. It would be a very small sized bird, but it would be ready to fight with an outsized animal or a rival because the only objective for the mom would be to safeguard its children. We can see this all the way from cats, birds, dogs, whatever species we are able to see. Mother instinct is so powerful. Why? Because mother is the one who is going to protect the baby and make sure the baby is growing in a hale and healthy manner. Again, when we observe this even more clearly, a mom is only going to safeguard this body. But Lord Shiva goes beyond a mom. That is the reason we always consider him superior to a mom, because he is not only safeguarding this body, but he is also safeguarding our soul, which is permanent and it's not going to be destroyed, but elevating the soul is the only objective for Lord Shiva, because a mom always thinks about how to elevate this body hale and healthy to the next stage. So Lord Shiva goes one step beyond that. Not only that, when we are having a lot of confusion or a doubt or whatever it is, all we have to do is not seek for an answer outside, rather just sit in front of the altar, ask Lord Shiva to give an answer. He will be throwing in a light through the right person. We call them as the Guru. The right person and the right information will be bestowed on us. That is what the very first phrase talks about. Kalaigal Tham பொருளும். All the art and the meaning of the art is going to be bestowed on us in the right time and through the right person. All we have to do is just surrender ourselves completely. The person who is going to give us this knowledge is Lord Shiva. He is the one who has the third eye, and he resides in the place called as Adhitheycharam, Kalandhai Adhitheycharam, which is filled with, the entire place is filled with all the holy sounds of the Vedas and Agamas, which is the Thirumurai, and all the holy musics or the chanting is happening in this particular place. That is what the very first verse is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the second verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. சந்தன களபம் துதைந்த நன்மேனி தவளவன் பொடி முழுதாடும் செந்தழல்லுருவில் பொலிந்து நோக்குடைய திருநூதல் அவர் கிடம் போலும் இந்தன விலங்கல் எரிபூனம் தீப்பட்டு எரிவதொத்தெழு நிலை மாடம் அந்தணர் அழலோம் வலை புனல் கலந்தை அணி திகழ் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is again another very profound verse. The verse is, it talks about Annamalayar, no doubt about it, and some more. This place is also called as Adhitheycharam. Adityan is nothing but sun, which is also a form of fire, a form of light, or rather a source of light. If we look at this particular verse here, the saint says, Lord Shiva is dancing in the form of a fireball, and he is having beautiful holy ashes on his body, and with that he is dancing, because we all know cosmic dancer. And not only that, the place Adhitheycharam is filled with, as in the surrounding, there's a lot of forests, and the forests have a lot of trees. After they cut down the trees, they are trying to fire it up, as in burn down the remaining part of the forest, as in it is not called as deforestation, but this is to make sure that the land is more easier and at the same time it is cultivatable. Because there are some plants even today that we follow this particular tradition. After harvesting those plants, we usually try to fire that place, as in burn down the place, so that the remnants of the earlier plant can be used as, because once it is burnt up, it becomes ashes, and those will be taken as fertilizers for the next harvesting. Because if we don't do that, there is a possibility that the earlier plant could poison, or rather impact the next harvest. So what we have to do is also the same. Our heart, or rather our mind, is also a barren land, where right now we have a lot of unwanted plants there. We all know gossips or rumors, or talking bad about others, thinking bad about others, or hatred, anger. All these are the unwanted plants that we have. All we have to do is surrender ourselves to the Lord, who is in the form of a fire, so that he can burn down all these and make sure that these lessons that we have based on our hatred, our gossiping habits and whatnot, those can be converted as a fertilizer for our future step towards Lord Shiva, or in this path of spirituality. That's what the crux of the second verse is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the third verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. கரியரேயிடம்தான் செய்யறி ஒரு பால் கழுத்தில்லோர் தனி வடம் சேர்த்தி முறிவாரே முனிவர் தம்முடல் நிழல் கீழ் முறை தெரிந்தோர் உடம்பினராம் இருவரே முக்கண் நாற்பெரும் தடந்தோள் இறைவரே மறைகளும் தேட அரியரே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அணி திகழ ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is beautifully written in the form of numbering system, numerical form, all the way from 1, 2, 3, in that particular order. Lord Shiva is all alone, single person, but he is already having two parts in his body. One part for his own self, and the second part, as in the left side, is for his consort Parvati Devi. That is what we call it as Ardhanarishwarar. Not only that, he has 3 eyes. The third eye is a very special symbol of Lord Shiva, and he also has 4 arms or shoulders. Now this particular the depiction is given in a form where Lord Shiva is, even though we are able to see 3, or not we, as in the saints have seen the 3 eyes and the 4 shoulders and all these, rather he is still not to be seen when someone tries to see him, saying that they would want to do it, or someone with an initiative, they are trying to initiate and try to achieve Lord Shiva. That is not possible. We can only achieve Lord Shiva with pure love and surrender. Lord Shiva is also having, as in when you look at his body, one side is black, another side is red, fair red. Why do we say that? Is because Lord Shiva, we all know he's fair in color, he's red in color, white in color rather. Left hand side is black because his consort Parvati Devi is black in color. Not only that, if you don't talk about Ardhanarishwara Vadivam, there is Ardhanarishwara form, there is another form called as Harihara Murti, which means one side is Shiva, another side is Vishnu. So even then, one side is red, another side is black, because we all know Vishnu, Mahavishnu is also black in color. So when we look at it, Lord Shiva is always very, very unique. He doesn't gel into any of our the so-called grammar or any kind of a boundary that we can possibly draw for him. He is beyond everything, but once we surrender ourselves with true love, he will come to us, as in when we take one step towards him, he will take 10 steps towards us and he will reach us very quick. That is what verse number 3 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the fourth verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. பழையராம் தொண்டர்க்கு எளியரே மிண்டர்க்கு அரியரே பாவியன் செய்யும் புழையலாம் பொறுத்தென் பிணி பொறுத்தருளா பிச்சரே நச்சரமிளிரும் குழையராய் வந்தென் குடி முழுதாளும் குழகரே ஒழுகு நீர்கங்கை அழகரே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அணி திகழ் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse gives us an opportunity to do a self-analysis. What we have to do is, first thing is, we need to understand Lord Shiva is always going to show his love on us. The only person who loves us unconditionally, without any expectation, without any prejudice, without even having a second thought, the only person who can love us is Lord Shiva. Now, how do we reciprocate that? Either we accept it or we reject it. If we are rejecting, obviously Lord Shiva will stay aloof. He will still have his eye on us, but we are not letting him in, so he will just stand there helplessly. But once we accept him, even though we don't know how to be a perfect companion over there, he would be the one who can guide us. That is what the first line here talks about. He says, the saint says, Lord Shiva is very close to whoever is yearning for him. Now, whoever is against him, Lord Shiva will stand aloof. He is the one who resides in the place called as Adhitheycharam and showing his love, bestowing his grace on whoever comes in over there. He is the one who's so beautiful and always young, because Lord Shiva has no date of birth, he has no date of death as well. So he is the one who is going to be an omnipotent, omnipresent over here, and he is the one who is also going to forgive us for all our sins and the wrongdoings. Once he forgives our wrongdoings, obviously what we have to go through, the next is the experience of the blissful state, the tranquil state, and that can be given to us only by Lord Shiva. That is what verse number 4 is all about. Now we have to do a self-analysis to see where we stand. Are we in the form to accept his love, or are we in the form where we are still not ready for it yet? If we are not ready for it yet, we need to start analyzing on our behavior and our thought process and make sure that we are getting into the eligibility criteria. Once we get into that eligibility criteria, surrender ourselves to him, he will change us according to his needs and his requirements. That is what verse number 4 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the fifth verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. Pavalame Magudam, Pavalame Thiruvai, Pavalame Thiruvoodambadanil, தவளமே களபம் தவளமே பொறிநூல் தவளமே முறுவலடரவம் துவளுமே கலையும் துகிலுமே ஒரு பால் துடியிடையிட மருங்கொரு தீ அவளுமே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அணிதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This verse is beautifully phrased, or rather we can read this verse for the beauty of the language itself, the words, the way how the words have been given. If you look at it, this particular verse has a beautiful approach to explain how Lord Shiva looks like. He is in the form of Ardhanarishwara. One side of his body he is wearing a skin, tiger skin. Another side of his body he is wearing a beautiful sari, or rather that is because it's Ardhanarishwara, right? So Amma as in his consort's dressing. So there is a beautiful dress, and when he is having all his beautiful dresses, obviously we need to have something to tie those that it doesn't like fall down, right? As of today we call it as a belt. So Lord Shiva uses snake as his belt, and his beautiful body looks as if it is made out of corals, and at the same time his lips are also looking like coral, red in color, and his hair is also reddish in color like coral. In that reddish color we can easily see what kind of a color combination Lord Shiva prefers. In that red color he is having a beautiful white holy ashes on his body, and the white we call it as the sacred thread, right, across the shoulders. So he is wearing the sacred thread which is also white in color, and the smile, because of the smile, the teeth that he's we are able to, it's visible, is also white in color. That is the beauty of Lord Shiva. Imagine we are not able to visualize him, we are not able to see him, but the saints who have already seen him are giving us or painting us a picture so that we can enjoy the blessings as well. So this is how Lord Shiva looks like. He is the one who is reddish in color, which means almost the color of corals. That is what verse number 5 is all about. I'll come back again with the next verse very soon. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam, and the 6th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. நீலமே கண்டம் பவளமே திருவாய் நித்திலம் நிறை திலங்கினவே போலுமே முறுவல் நிறைய ஆனந்தம் பொழியுமே திருமுகம் ஒருவர் கோலமே அச்சோ அழகிது என்று குழைவரை கண்டவருண்டது ஆலமே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அணிதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a lovely verse. In fact, it talks about the beautiful appearance of Lord Shiva. We will be able to resonate with one truth here. Imagine if someone is poisoned, for example snake bite. If someone is poisoned, what will happen? We will be able to see the transformation happening in their body. The physical body will show up the transformation. So they will become either the skin will scale up, or rather the body will turn pale or even blue in color. The tint will come in because of the effect of the poison. We are able to see that even today's world. But what happened with Lord Shiva is he is the one who is a presiding deity in the place called as Kalandhai Adhitheycharam. He lives there. What he ate was poison. So what should happen apparently is the body should have turned pale. But what happened was nothing changed in his body, only his throat changed into a blue color. Nothing other than that. Only his throat is blue in color to demonstrate that he has swollen the poison. And if you look at his mouth, as in his lips, because that's the place where he swallowed the poison, right? If you look at the lips, there is no change in the lips, and it is so red in color, so attractive. So how about the teeth that is visible? Pure white. There is no other impact other than his throat when he drank the poison. You can imagine what kind of a chemist our Lord Shiva should be, right? That is the beauty that they are trying to depict in this. And he says, the moment someone sees his beauty, as in the beautiful face, the beauty and the tranquility in the face that is being demonstrated, the moment we see his face, anyone will fall in love in a jiffy because it is so attractive. Anyone who looks at him will think that Lord Shiva is so attractive, so beautiful, so charming, and so handsome. That is what verse number 6 is all about. What he has taken as poison is nothing but our entanglement. And he is demonstrating that he has taken our entanglement as part of, that's why he's showing it in his throat, because if it is in any other part of the body, it won't be visible, that much visible. So that is why it is there on his throat, to say that, hey, the blue that you are able to see in my throat is nothing but your entanglement, and I've rescued you by swallowing it. So every time we look at him, we need to be grateful that he is there to rescue us from all. He is basically our savior, to put it in a very simple manner. That is what the 6th verse is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 7th verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. தீக்கடா நினைந்து நெஞ்சிடிந்துருகும் தீரத்தவர் புறத்திருந்தாலச மைக்கடானைய என்னையாள் விரும்பி மற்றொரு பிறவியில் பிறந்து பொய்க்கடா வண்ணம் காத்தேன கருளே புரியவும் வல்லறியல்லே அக்கடாயில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அநீதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Lovely verse. In fact, we should all be able to relate with these words. In this, our saint is not talking from his point of view, but rather we need to place ourselves in this position, and we need to relate with this as our own words. Imagine there are so many devotees out there who are longing to get onto Lord Shiva's lotus feet. They are in a very different state altogether. They are in a very, very elevated state. They have totally surrendered themselves, complete surrender to Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva, I'm not sure how much of a grace he has shown on them, but he has shown a lot more grace on me. When I say me, in this particular verse, they are going one step deeper and they are saying, simple like a buffalo. I've been just roaming around like a thick-skinned person, because we all know thick-skinned is literally translated into buffalo, right? So we were roaming around, or rather I should say that I have been roaming around as a buffalo all these while, and Lord Shiva came down, bestowed his love and showed his affection on me. If not, imagine today, are we able to wear a rudraksha? Are we able to wear a holy ashes on our forehead? Are we able to even utter his beautiful mantra, Shivaya Nama? If we are in a position to do that, which means Lord Shiva has already embraced us. Once he has embraced us, after that we shouldn't be worried about too much. All we have to do is just relax. That's what they say. Akkada. Akkada means you don't need to worry about anything. Just leave everything to him. He will take care. In management, we usually say, identify a person who is even more qualified than you, delegate the work to them. Once you delegate, have confidence in them, they will do it. Never go and micromanage after you delegate a work. Imagine you're just giving a work to them and then constantly be breathing behind their neck. Do you think they'll be motivated to do the work? Of course not. So what we have to do is give them the work, trust them that they can do the work. The trust is the most important one. Similar to that, imagine I'm having a problem today. I just go in front of the altar, tell to Lord Shiva, okay, I've delegated the work to you, make sure you're sorting it out. The moment I say that, I need to come back, hit the bed, and I should be able to have a sound sleep. If I'm not able to have a sleep, it means I've not delegated the work 100%. It means I've started breathing behind his neck, which means he is not going to be productive, right? The moment you say you have delegated the work, you have to walk the talk, which means just leave it to him, surrender yourself, come back to the bed, sleep, have a peaceful sleep. That is the real surrender, that is the real devotion that we should always be talking about and projecting. That is what verse number 7 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 8th verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. மெய்யரே மெய்யர்க்கு ஈடு திருவான விளக்கரை எழுதுகோல் வாழையாள் மையரே வையம் பாலி திரிந்துரையும் மாயானரே உளங்கலந்திருந்தும் பொய்யரே பொய்யர்க்கு அடுத்தவான் பளிங்கின் பொருள் வழி இருள் கிழித்தெழுந்த ஐயரே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அநீதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a wonderful verse because it tells us how Lord Shiva resonates with our behavior. For example, if we are 100% truthful in our worship or in our prayers or even towards the service of Lord Shiva, he is also reciprocating in the same manner, which is truthfulness. Now we may have a question, what if I'm not truthful? Obviously, when we are not truthful, he is also going to reciprocate in the same manner, which means he is there with us but in a hidden manner. Hidden that in such a way that we won't be able to understand or realize that he is there. Appar Peruman, in one of his Padigam, he would say, I've already found out Lord Shiva, he is deep within my heart. Imagine if Lord Shiva is out somewhere, as in the space or whatever, we would immediately start sending rockets and spaceships and whatever, even including satellites, to identify where is he. But the seldom visited place is within our conscience, within us. How many of us are ready to traverse within our own selves to identify Lord Shiva? Other than our saints and our siddhars, I have not seen anyone really getting into that state. So, if we look at it, normal human beings, we do, because we are in the materialistic world, so we cannot be 100% selfless. We do have some kind of a hidden agenda or a motive while we are doing certain prayers, which means that is not a truthful prayer. Of course, there is going to be a benefit because end of the day it is still a prayer, but the real benefit will be there only when we perform a prayer when there is no expectation, only out of love, only out of the selfless attitude, right? Only when we have that kind of an attitude and we are praying, that is where Lord Shiva is going to be at least he is going to respond to us and show that he is there with us. That kind of Lord, he is there in the place called as Kalandhai, Kalappal. Right now it's called as Kalappal, Kalandhai, Adhitheycharam. Such a wonderful verse in this, because he says Lord Shiva is the one who's dancing in the graveyard, and at the same time he is the one who's going around asking for alms and having that as his food, and at the same time he's having his consort as half of his body as well. That kind of Lord Shiva is the one who's true. Whoever is truthful, he is going to be truthful. Whoever is just acting, he is also going to act, but within the mind itself. That is what verse number 8 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 9th verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. குமுதமே திருவாய் குவளையே களமும் குழையதே இரு செவி ஒரு பால் விமலமே கலையும் உடையரே சடைமேல் மிளிருமே பொறிவரிநாகம் கமலமே வதனம் கமலமே நயனம் கனகமே திருவடி நிலை நீர் அமலமே ஆகில் அவரிடம் கலந்தை அநீதிகள் ஆதித்தேச்சரமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a beautiful explanation of how Lord Shiva looks like. Imagine if someone is asking us to introduce Lord Shiva and say, can you tell me how his looks are? Obviously, we will try to explain it with something that is known to the other party. So the saint is also using the same psychology over here. See, he says he's using the most closest analogy that we are all able to relate to, which is nature. So he is referencing to all possible flowers, all the way from lily to lotus, and he says about the snakes. There are a lot of other references to nature to express how Lord Shiva is looking. He starts all the way from the beautiful hair. Hair of Lord Shiva has a lot of snakes as a decorative piece. His face is like a lotus, his eyes is like a lotus, his lips are like lily flowers, and his throat is so beautiful like a flower. His dressing, if you observe his dressing, since he has his consort on his left side, it is dressed so beautifully, whereas on the right hand side, he is only wearing a tiger skin. Not only that, Lord Shiva's feet is gold, as pure as gold, because gold is the only metal which is known for its purity. Not only that, it can never be contaminated, it can never be corroded as well. That is why Lord Shiva is always depicted as gold. It is not for the metallic value, but rather the value that we need to get when we are talking about praying to Lord Shiva. This form of Lord Shiva is in the place called as Kalandhai Adhitheycharam. Right now it's called as Kalapal, and Lord Shiva is residing in that beautiful place, who is almost in the form of nature. So all we have to do is worship him in the form of nature, so that we can also be one among the nature. That is what verse number 9 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam, and the finale verse, which is the 10th verse. Let's look at the verse first. Thiruchitrambalam. நீரணங்க சும்பு கழனி சுள் கலந்தை நிறை புகழ் ஆதித்தேச்சாரத்து நாரணன் பரவும் திருவடி நிலை மேல் நலமலி கலை பயில் கருவூர் ஆரணம் மொழிந்த பவளவாய் சூரந்த அமுதம் மூறிய தமிழ் மாலை ஏரணங்கிரு நான்கு இரண்டிவை வல்லோர் இருள் கிழித்தெழுந்த சிந்தையரே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Similar to any other Thirupadigam, this 10th verse also resonates with the same thing, as in, if someone is able to read this entire Padigam, what is the benefit they are going to get out of it? The saint who has written this particular Padigam, Karuvoor Thevar, he is also mentioning the same thing, as in he says, if someone is able to read the Padigam, the entire Padigam, when I say read, it's not just per se read, but 100% involved. Once we are able to read it in a more involved manner, that is when Lord Shiva is going to bestow a beautiful gift on us, which is the moment we read it or we keep reading it, the so-called ego, we call it as the Anava Malam, which is what is represented as the darkness. So Lord Shiva will eliminate this darkness from our heart, from our soul, from our intellect, from our mind, and make sure that we are in a very vibrating state. That is what verse number 10 is all about, and Karuvoor Thevar is giving us this confidence that if you want to get rid of this karmic deeds, if you want to get rid of this entanglements and all these, all we have to do is just start reading the Thirupadigam, which is actually a shortcut. So once we start reading the Thirupadigam, everything else is going to fall in its own place. That is what verse number 10 is all about. I'll come back again with the next verse very soon. Until then, Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam.